Who is the most important person, hint, hint, I didn't say player, for the 2023 Chicago Cubs? Find out on this episode.
Are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cubs alongside Sam Mulber. I'm Matt Cozy. Pleased to be with you for a Thursday episode. Thanks whenever and wherever you may be joining us, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and a whole lot more. Thanks for making us your first listen every day on all things Cubs. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things North Side. Well, we do continue our important Pieces series. It has been players for Cubs success in 23. Today, it is the manager, Sam, David Ross. We're going to reflect and expand our thoughts, analysis, ideas on him. And we would love for you to join the conversation below on YouTube. Send us a tweet, get interactive with the show, and share the show with somebody this weekend as well. The Cubs are expected to take a step up this year, although if you listen to FanDuel and others in Vegas, maybe not so much. Please listen to Tuesday's episode and check that out. But David Ross, Sam, is going to be critical to the operation in a couple months.
This has been an episode that I have been waiting for since about maybe mid to late July of 2022. I believe more important than any player's performance in 2023, the most important member, and to be fair to Matt, I the title and all that stuff, I'm kind of speaking for him, so I'll let him discuss whether he thinks it's true or not. This is coming from me, which means it's coming from us because we're a team here on this show. Tag team, the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys. You watch WWE, some of the greats.
We're all in it together, the listeners as well.
I have been very critical of David Ross, the manager, on this show so far. I thought in 2020, David Wade Ross, by the way, I want to say his full name. I thought
Is that real?
No, that's his real middle name.
Wade, interesting. Yeah. Two last names. All right.
I thought in 2020 in the COVID year, he did a really nice job. Nobody produced on that team, and he found a way to get him 34 of 60 wins and won a division. 2021 was obviously a train wreck for everybody involved. I didn't really put too much on him for that, except for this fact, Matthew. He was brought in, Theo Epstein even said, to hold the core more accountable. We've always talked about it on this show. Joe Maddon was too buddy-buddy with them, so he wanted to bring more accountability to this team. And all of those players got significantly worse under his tenure. Whether that's all his fault or not, up for debate. Obviously, it's not all his fault. But last year, I thought early in the season, when the games mattered a lot, because the Cubs, like this year, did not have much expectation. So as we've talked about, you have to get off to a hot start. I thought he mismanaged a lot of games. Just for example, just so you know, go back, look at the third game of the season against Milwaukee and see who pitched with a lead in the 6th and 7th inning. Spoiler alert, it was Jesse Chavez and Norris. Daniel Norris. I want to let you comment so I don't go too long, and then I'm gonna break down the 3 areas of managing that need to be better and locked in this season. But I want to let you comment first if you think I'm right or not.
Well, I'm actually reading the Joe Maddon book right now, Sam. Joe Maddon and Tom Verducci, and I just finished perhaps the best chapter when Maddon is reflecting on the 2019 season, and Theo and Jed really got heavily involved that year. And they said Maddon wasn't connecting with his players enough, and they had a lot more meetings about hitting and pitching and defense. And I really think that David Ross, at least in 20 and 21 and perhaps 22 as well. We'll see if we could reflect on some of the signs of this, but I do think Jed and his office have a ton of control over him.
Great point.
However, I do think they are respectful and thoughtful about the manager's role in a dugout. Hey, we are still playing a baseball game. You do have some free will and some free choice, and you have to actually do your job. But a lot of the construction of lineups and
Right.
scripting, I think, comes from a lot of it down the hall. I don't know if I agree with that, but
Sure.
I know Joe doesn't. This is a absolutely pivotal year for this guy. You have a team that won 74 games in 22. They make almost every addition on the diamond that they can. The quality of addition is up for debate, but they did make changes and additions.
There's big league ball players all over the field.
There really is. Everyone's established. And quite frankly, the first 28 games that we've broken down on Tuesday's show, that's going to give me a sense of what Ross's role is going to be this year.
Yep.
Because even with the addition of the designated hitter in the National League, decision-making innings 1 through 9, especially innings 6 through 9 or 7 through 9, or maybe even 5 through 9 this day and age, is critical. And Jed isn't in the dugout. It's David Ross and Andy Green and Tommy Hotovy. And I do think that when push comes to shove, David Ross is going to be a critical piece here. I would say he's vitally important. He's pivotal, like I said. And for as much as influence as the front offices do have, I do think David Ross is going to be given enough autonomy to be where the front office actually makes a judgment on Ross moving forward as the Cubs continue to ascend here in this era.
Yeah, so you made one of my points for me, so congratulations.
Thank you.
You could be Christian, I'll be Edge. That's my last
140 episodes now.
That's my last WWE reference. So the three areas I'll start. So in
This
order,
is great.
In order, the three areas were bullpen management, lineup construction, and day-to-day motivation and accountability.
Ooh, I like the third one.
I'm going to flip the second and first one just to address your point.
Okay.
Lineup construction, if we don't, and you could say the same about bullpen, but I think to your point, it's more about lineups. I had this in my notes because this is one of the few shows I really wrote and prepped for a while. That is also on Jed Hoyer because that is exactly what I was going to say. So I'm just going to echo it.
Okay.
Joe Madden got really frustrated with the involvement of the front office. And then it happened again with the Angels, by the way.
Yeah.
And I think David Ross and Jed Hoyer's success are a little bit tied together because I do think David Ross, for lack of a better term, is a little bit of a yes man to those guys. So when we see, let's say, I'll just use myself as an example. I'd be really frustrated if Nico Horner was leading off against Corbin Burns on opening day. That is more just as much a Jed Hoyer thing as it is a Ross thing. So I will say that. I will say that, and I will admit that. However, the bullpen aspect of it, I'm not as sure. I just know it has to be taken seriously, and whoever's in charge of it, whether it's Hoyer to Ross or Ross to Hoyer, whoever it is, they have to be extremely creative this year because of guys like Keegan Thompson, because of guys like Alzolay, potentially Adrian Sampson. They have to be efficient. They have to be creative. Okay, you know what? We're up. This is a really big game for us to get. We're going to stretch out Keegan an extra inning, and we're going to worry about the rest tomorrow. We're not going to see if we could steal a win because we're worried about tomorrow's game. Things like that. Taking every game very seriously, and then making sure you use your best pitchers when you're leading. For example, my David Ross pet peeve is let's just use a scenario. Let's just say Keegan Thompson's the best reliever the Cubs have this year. And let's say he's sitting on the bench or he's warming up in the bullpen in the 7th inning and the Cubs are up 2 runs, bases loaded, 1 out. And you want to use him in the 8th and 9th. This probably doesn't make any sense. It's just a hypothetical. Get him. The game is about to be decided in said 7th inning with the bases loaded, 1 out. You're not going to be able to save him for the 8th and 9th if you give up a grand slam this next pitch. And then that's what happens. And then Thompson's used the next inning and the Cubs are trailing. So alter your plan a little bit in order to maximize the value of your relievers. Mm-hmm. So that's a big one. And then the third one, the one you said you liked, look, this is me being a little old school. I don't want to see any birds to former players like last year with Jock Peterson. I don't want to see that. Okay. I don't want to see every time I go chopping it up with the guys, laughing, doing a little hugging, doing the handshakes before. No, this is business now. Okay. You are here to hold these guys accountable. If said player makes any player makes the first or third out at third base multiple times, like Franmil Reyes did last year, sit on the bench. Okay. Pull them. I want accountability. I don't want everything's lovey-dovey, hugging guys and all this stuff. I want a serious David Ross this year that takes the game seriously. And I'll just close with this. You know this about me, Matt. I am not somebody that's going to come here in hindsight and say, hey, Cubs won, David Ross is a genius. Cubs lost, David Ross is at fault. I will let you know in the moment if I agree with something or not. And sometimes it turns out right, it turns out wrong. But we always talk about improvement on the margins. If David Ross takes a leap and can elevate himself, because I believe right now he's a significantly worse manager than Craig Counsell. I don't even think it's close. If he takes a leap, the Cubs will take a leap.
Do you think Counsell's at the top of his craft?
I think the only thing I judge is I look at a team's roster and I look what they get out of them.
Yeah.
I think he's really good. I think Cash with the Rays is terrific. I think Francona's terrific. Those are the guys that come to mind that get a lot out of a little. Like look at Francona's team last year.
Right.
Who outside of Jose Ramirez, is that much better than a roster than the Cubs had this year? I know they had Bieber and McKenzie were terrific, but outside of Ramirez, their next best player is what, like Josh Naylor or Jimenez? It's maximizing your ability. Last year, for most of the season, I don't think the Cubs maximized themselves, and then they got going in September. And I said the whole year, hey, this is not a 62-win team that they're on pace for.
Yeah, does David Ross want to be serious? That's a real question that I have. I think the jury's still out on that. I don't know if it's fair that it's all on eye test and all what the marquee cameras show, but listen, that's what I have to go off of.
Exactly.
What else would you like me to do? I try to listen to all his sound bites. I try to tune into his pressers. I try to be thoughtful about what the Athletic writes and the Trib, and just to see what I could get and glean from what he's saying. What he was saying at the convention seemed to be encouraging, but, it's mid-January and everyone's really excited for the year, including him.
Sure.
He's human too. But, he does have a lot on his plate. And
a lot.
I know he's a fan favorite. I think that's great. I know he played for some incredible managers, and I think that's just as good. And the Cubs, honestly, it's a little bit refreshing what they did in terms of bringing in people that others like. And so what is David Ross? How is he going to play a role in that? Because it is going to be a good clubhouse. In terms of the personalities and the management of people, I think those guys are going to take care of that.
Easy.
So then he really could just be good at the baseball part.
Yeah, but
this is his time.
To your point earlier, he has a lot on his plate. He has more on his plate than a lot of managers this year because there's so many different directions. The platoons on offense.
There's a lot of rotations.
Yeah, the pitching. There's a lot of rotations. And that's why not all this is – I'm not attacking David Ross. Like, I think he can be a good manager. I just don't think he was great for a lot of last year. But the reason – and we could close with this. The reason why I think David Ross – is so important this year is because of the way the roster is constructed. It's not one of those teams where we're going to play the same 9-10 guys every day and rotate. And we know in the 7th, we're going to player X.
Different every day.
It's going to be different. You have to be smart. You have to think ahead, also think in the moment. You have to be, if the Cubs are an 85 to 88 win team, he'll be get manager of the year consideration. And it will be true because you have to be really smart. And the last thing I'll say is this. The reason the third point I made about the day-to-day stuff is I have yet to see that accountability that's being held. I remember he benched Baez one time and it felt forced and totally out of character. I've yet to see that accountability, that seriousness every game that we were told we were going to get with David Ross. And I want that. And I think this is the year for him. I'll say it right now and I'll close with this. If the Cubs are bad this year he will not be the manager in 24.
An iconic Cubs player that was teammates with David Ross announced his retirement on Tuesday. We reflect on his career coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We're so excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're number one. FanDuel, the number one sports book in the US of A. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers can join today and get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/locked on. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. Tuesday's episode, we listed the Cubs over-under for 2023. It opened at 75.5. It's still 75.5 at recording time for this episode. We'll keep an eye on that until March 30th. And you could place a wager on that as we look at futures for MLB. Of course, we have the Super Bowl coming up, NBA about to hit the stretch run, and a whole lot more. This is all on an app that's safe, secure, super easy to use. So don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/locked on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of Locked On Cubs.
Hey, Matt, could I just say one thing before we get into Fowler?
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out right before we got on. I was checking my tweets. Shout out to Born to Run 99 made a beautiful point on the over under. I wanted to wait till you read the FanDuel.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Ready for this? What two teams have I compared this Cubs roster to in baseball that they're trying to build around? What two small market teams?
Rays and Guardians.
Correct. Do you know the over-under last year for the Guardians as of opening day?
I'm going to say 78.5.
It's going to be 75.5.
Ooh.
And they won 92 baseball
that's
games.
Exciting.
Yeah, they won 92. So shout out Born to Run for letting me know
That's
that. That's
huge.
a phenomenal tweet. And that just got the juices going.
Let's retweet that.
Yeah, I already retweeted it. Please retweet it.
I'll look at that after we get off.
Yeah, I just wanted to just a little something.
No, that's good. That's good. It's good to know about the Sacramento Kings as well that you pointed out the other day.
Yeah. No, there's examples.
They don't get it 100%.
And then I saw you respond to somebody on YouTube that the 15 Cubs, I mean, they were what, 81 and a half. And that team won 97 baseball games.
And one of those players from those teams, Dexter Fowler, announced his
Wow.
retirement from baseball on Tuesday. Dex played 14 years with the Rockies, Astros, Cubs, Cardinals, and Angels. Fowler was the catalyst for the Cubs in 15 and 16. Leading off and playing center field nearly every game for those 2 straight years, en route to helping the Cubs win the World Series in 16. In Game 7 of the Fall Classic, Fowler lived up to the "You Go, We Go" mantra, which was adopted initially, I believe, Sam, by manager Joe Madden, as Fowler launched a leadoff home run over the center field wall to give the Cubs an early lead. So many great memories from Dex.
Yeah, I think Dexter Fowler has such a tremendous legacy in Chicago sports lore because, I don't have his numbers offhand, but whatever they are, they didn't really tell the story for him, and not saying they were bad, but we kind of learned how important a guy like Dexter Fowler is after he left, right?
Yes. My gosh.
We haven't been able to, we haven't had a steady leadoff hitter since. We haven't had a steady defensive center fielder since that can play both sides of the ball. And
7 years, by the way.
And the thing about Dexter was, like so many of those important players in 16 and 15, he was so likable off the field. He was a great guy. I still remember where I was actually when I found out they re-signed him late for 16. Which they would not have won the World Series if they didn't.
I bumped Fetty Wap all day that day.
And the thing I'll say about Dexter is it wasn't just Game 7 either. I remember in the 15 wild card game, he got that started with a base hit and a stolen base and then scored on I think it was a Schwarber bloop something or somebody scored. He scored off of that. I think it was Schwarber. But he, in big games, think there's a Nationals one where he got on. He always got on to start games. He was always up for the moments,
Yeah.
So many of those guys, Zobrist, Rizzo, Fowler, got better, Schwarber, got better in the moments, those big moments. They were never afraid of the moments. That's what I'll remember Fowler for, is just kind of just always being there, leading off and feeling great about it for 2 straight years.
And he'll be somewhere on the 2016 World Series statue, which will be revealed opening day 2026. And please, everybody else out there, credit me, or I will do some pro wrestling on Twitter with you.
Well, no, you're gonna leave no stone unturned, and let me tell you something. You'll move mountains if you have to.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, let's definitely. It was cool to reflect on Dex today, and just those teams. I think the 15 example is great if you talk just over unders, because he was a guy. I don't know, were people singing the praises of that trade necessarily when it happened prior to 15 with the trade with the Astros? I don't have a great memory of it to that level of detail, but you saw pretty quick his payoff.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll see that with some of the current team pretty quick this April as well. A couple 0 to 100s to wrap up the show, and we do that right after this. Welcome back to Locked On Cubs. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to the audio peeps, Apple, Spotify, ad-free if you have Amazon Prime, on Amazon Music, and wherever you get your podcast. So 0 to 100, Sam, we broke down the April part of the schedule on Tuesday's episode.
Yes.
And I did want to ask you, what is 0 to 100? What is the chances that the Cubs do win 2 out of 3 to open the year against Milwaukee?
Ooh, good question.
Because they really need that. They have to be 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, I won't over. They don't need. If they're 1 and 2, I'm not watching game. I'm still going to be locked in game 4.
Okay, well, I'll hold you to that. And I would love to do a live broadcast on opening day.
I know what I'll say 50-50. I'll just do the cop
50-50.
I think they got a great chance. I mean, they did it last year. I mean, it's a baseball series.
Right.
So I have 2 for you. We could switch off. One's baseball, one's non-baseball. Which would you like first?
I'll do baseball.
Okay, baseball for 300.
Yeah.
0 to 100.
Where's Sully?
0 to 100 that the Chicago Cubs have multiple All-Stars in 2023.
I'm going to say 60%.
Yeah, I think it's more than half.
Yeah.
There's just that, and that's the thing.
It's going to be Steele and Suzuki.
Shout out to my friend Zach who sent me a nice text today that I tweeted.
Thanks, Zach.
There's just so much big league ability here. Like, okay, Happ, Steele, Stroman, Suzuki, Tyone, Horner, Swanson. Just out of those 7,
yeah, it's good.
This team shouldn't be bad. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I'm optimistic.
Do you want me to go in a row here?
Yeah, I don't have any others.
Oh, you just had 1. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. No, that's fine. Next time, let's just not even show up. Okay.
I was hoping to go outside and enjoy the cold.
Yeah, 0 to 100.
That is the segment. Yes.
If this is a hypothetical, and you're going to tell me the percentage you think you'd be able to execute it.
Right.
If I told you the Chicago Cubs were going to win 90-plus baseball games this year, 0 to 100, how likely could it be? In order to do that, you have to give up all caffeine.
Oh, and
What's
they
the
would win
percentage?
how many games?
90-plus. It could be 90. It could be 106.
Oh, there's a strong chance I would do that.
You would do it.
Yeah, I would say not 90.
90.
Yeah.
And you'd still be able to, we'd still get you to show up on the show.
Yeah, I would adjust. Yeah, I would make some adjustments. I would throw some flavoring in the water. I'd become a big tea person. I think everything would be fine.
Caffeinated free tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, I almost want to say
100.
Yeah.
No, really.
Yeah, I love this team.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great answer because I've known you now for a while. We've spent a lot of time together, and sometimes I get a little concerned about the caffeine intake.
I know. Well, let's hope this show is a long run. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. Another
Hey, by the
fun
way, folks,
show.
real quick, I'm not
Yeah.
exactly the nutritional Dwayne the Rock Johnson myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want people to think I'm I just had 2 chocolate chip cookies at 3 in the afternoon.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button for Locked On Cubs on YouTube as we make the push to 3,000 subscribers. Smash the like button as we make the push to 1,000 plus likes per episode. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and more on the audio side. Drop us a text this weekend, 312-834-4634. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Now make your second Locked On MLB Prospects. Our friend Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. Locked On MLB Prospects, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy, and this is Locked On Cubs.